All right, hey guys, how y'all doing today? Welcome back to my channel. I just want to kind of go over a couple things, a little different than what I was before. Before I was going over more of the programs and things that you can do with Lightburn. Today I just want to go over a little bit of some of the differences in like flood fill, offset fill, just a couple of those things like that. I did a couple little burns today, and I just want to kind of go over a little bit of that there. Some people maybe don't understand or don't have a know how they work or how they would come out. But the first one I did, I just did like little squares out of a piece of wood here. And the first thing I did was I did an offset fill. Offset fill is a lot of times a little quicker, but it doesn't always give you the desired effect that you're actually looking for. If you look at this card right here, the first two I'm going to show you is offset fill and fill. Now, offset fill does give you some different designs and different things the way they come out compared to, let's say, just straight fill. But this is what offset fill would look like. You can see, maybe you can see it pretty good. But you can see how it has the lines there and around where the offset fill is, where it's worded and engraved out there. It doesn't look very appealing, but that's what an offset fill would look like with that. Now, if you did a fill, just a regular straight fill where the machine goes back and forth, left to right, and works its way up that machine, which is exactly sort of what the offset fill did, but it leaves you, it kind of goes in a circle, and it just does different pattern of movements to get it to do it. Where fill is just what you see there. It goes left to right, left to right. It just keeps going back and forth on that material until you get all the way to the top, and that's fill. So that's the difference between fill and offset fill. Sometimes the offset fill comes out real nice, and you can really see some different designs in it that it produces, and it does come out pretty nice sometimes. But if you're looking for just a uniform, you just can't get any better than what the fill is right there. So that would be your fill. I don't know. There we go. That would be your fill right there. The other ones I wanted to touch up on is offset fill would be more useful if you were like doing like a picture frame and it was going around the picture frame, kind of like what you see right here. See if I can get that to zoom in. There we go. So what offset, and I'm going to show you on a computer here in a minute or two on what it actually does and the movements that it does. But you can see, I don't know if that's showing up very well. There we go. But you can see it was done at 300 LPI, 1200 millimeters a minute, and it took about 2 minutes and 37 seconds to do that, just the border around it, not the engraving in the middle here, just the actual border around it. That's what I wanted to show. So that's offset fill. And if you do fill, and I'm going to show you on the computer the difference of these. Fill is going to go back and forth, left, right, all the way back and forth until it does all that whole outside border of it. And you can see with that, it was the same. LPI was 300, 1200 millimeters per minute. And that one took 17 minutes to engrave just the outer box around it. And the reason why it takes so long is because all this in the middle here is all wasted movement of the laser. It's moving from left to right, from right to left, and it's a lot of it that it's just moving and not burning. So that's the difference with that right there. So I went ahead and I did another one that is flood fill. It's the same thing. Flood fill is 300 LPI, same. 1200 millimeters per minute, the same, but that only took 8 minutes to do. And what the flood fill did is it just goes back and like the bottom will go, and then when it gets to the side, it's just going to keep going back and forth on the side. And I'm going to show you all that on the computer. So that took 8 minutes to do. But the offset fill with this kind of pattern, where all you're doing is engraving a border around the outside, is much quicker at offset fill than what it is fill or flood fill. But flood fill compared to fill was quite a bit faster. That fill does take a lot more time to actually complete and finish that burn. So you can see that right there. 8 minutes for the flood fill compared to 17 minutes for just the fill. So that is a big difference. But like I said, the offset fill was only 2 minutes and 37 seconds to complete that. But if you look, if you can see it well, if you look in the corners, you'll see a white line that goes on in the corners. So it kind of leaves a little different effect of that as well too. But it is the quickest of all of them. So it does give you a little different look than what the flood fill does. All right, so that's kind of the difference between flood fill, offset fill. And like I said, I did 300 LPI on all of them. I wanted to keep them all consistent and the same. And I did them all the same speed as well too. I just wanted to kind of show you that it does, each one will do a different time. So it's time saver if that's what you're looking for. Fill is real, comes out real nice. Whether it's the border around it or if it's the whole entire panel that it's doing up, you know, the whole panel. But fill does take a whole lot of time to do, a whole lot more time than what flood fill does. Flood fill for something like that, like I said, only took 8 minutes to do that border around that square. So and it did come out just like the fill did, because the offset fill had the lines in the corners, just the way it works. But I'm going to jump onto the computer now. I'm going to show you on the computer what each one of them does look like with the traversal moves and all that, and just let you see, instead of me trying to explain it to you, you'll be able to actually see it, and we'll kind of go over that here in a minute. So once I get back to the computer, I'll jump back in and we'll get started back up. To the computer, and I wanted to kind of go over what each one of these here that I was showing you, how they look when you do the preview button. So you can kind of see, without me trying to point and go around and stuff, you'll be able to see how they actually work. This is a short video. I'm going to make this as short as I possibly can, but I'm going to try to cover as much as I can with you. The first one we're going to do here is going to be the fill, the blue one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to output and I'm going to unshow all the rest of them. So now the only one you see is the blue one. I'm going to leave the gray one back on and show that. Actually, let me click on that. I'm going to change that to a color that we don't have up on there because I don't want to interfere with the other ones. I want to be able to turn the other gray ones off. And we're going to put that on fill. Okay, now we can go back to the gray and we can not show that and take the output of that. Now, the fill, the one I just showed you, what this one here, if you click up here on the preview button, it's going to show you what it is you're looking at. And what it's going to do is it's going to go back and forth throughout this whole image, all the way from the bottom all the way to the top. Remember I showed you before, if you hit play, you'll be able to go through all these and see what it's doing, see what the machine is going to be doing when it's doing those. Okay? Now, once it does that, then it's going to go ahead and it's going to fill that last part there to show you what it is. Now, with the fill, we'll go back into the preview here. You'll see that there's 100% burning 100% of the time, except for these edges right here. If you look at the edges, you got that pink or red, whatever color you want to call that. If you look up here under the blue, I have my overscan set to 1%. So when you go back into, and it's 1% for all of them. So when you go back into this, you'll see that if you hit this button right here that says show traversal moves, it takes that away. Okay? Now, when you put it back on, it's going to show you where all that laser is actually moving and how it's working up that material. So it's going to come 1% out and then come up and then go over. So it's going to keep working its way back and forth until it gets this whole thing complete. That you'll see is going to take about 10 minutes to do this fill right here. So that's going to take about 10 minutes to do the fill. And that's a small, as you can see, that's a small little square. That's not much of a square at all. So 10 minutes to do one little piece of wood, that's a long time if you're talking about a much bigger image. Now, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn those off, and I want to turn on the pink here, the 7. Now, let me turn off this. We don't want to see that one either. Now, this one here was set to offset fill. Let me change that 6,000 to 12,000, and I'm going to leave it at 70. Just usually you want your offset fill. It does burn a little hotter. But I'm going to leave it at 70 to keep them all exactly the same up and down the whole image here. All these different layers. Now, if we're at offset fill, 12,070. If we come up here and we click that now, you're going to see it's going to take 11 minutes and 22 seconds to do the offset fill. And honestly, to me, the results that it came up with, I did not care about those results. That's a effect that it's not for me. But certain things it does really, really well with. But it's going to take 11 minutes and 22 seconds to do that. And if you look at what it's going to do, and that's why around all those lettering, it doesn't look good. But we're going to start playing from here at 40 times 40 speed. And I'm going to slow it down a little bit now. You see what it's doing. It's going around all those letters. Now, it looks good on here. But if you blow way up in on it, you can see the mess that it makes out of it. So offset fill is good for certain things that we're going to get ready to come up in a minute here and show you. But for something like this, for me personally, it's not. Some folks might like it. I'm just not. That's not my look that I usually go for. All right, now I'm going to show you the flood fill. The flood fill it's a little, it burns at 100% of the time of all the movements that it's going to make. So let's go in here and I'm going to show you the preview of the flood fill. Actually, first let me turn off the gray layer. And let's do this. All right, so you see in here it shows 8 minutes is what it's going to take. 8 minutes and 16 seconds is what it's going to take to do this. What the flood fill is going to do, let's go back here to the beginning and we'll start playing. You're going to see it's going to start filling and it's going to go to the side. Just fill that. The only red that you have is that 1% on each side of that black line. Now it's going to do the top and then you're going to go across the bottom. Let me slow that down just a hair. And you're going to see that it only has that red is the overscan, 1% overscan. So that is going to take 8 minutes to complete that. So flood fill is, let me get the flood fill, is that one right there. That's the flood fill. It's going to take 8 minutes to complete that square around there. That's pretty quick and does real, as you can see around all the edges, it's all 100% burnt and there's no lines in it. It actually engraved that real nice. It did the same as what the next one is, the fill, but I'm going to turn off the output of the fill and I'm going to put on the the orange layer, the number 5. Let me put the gray back on so you can see. That is going to take 17 minutes to do the fill at 300 LPI, the same. All these, like I said, are all the same, but it's going to take 17 minutes, 11 minutes more. Oh, no, 9 minutes more than what it's going to take the flood fill. And the reason is, let me turn this gray back off and we'll go up here to preview it. You'll see all that red, all that traversal move. It's got to go back and forth on this whole entire sheet, all the way from the bottom to the top. That's going to take 10 minutes. 10 minutes, it says, to do this. So let's go ahead and we'll click that. We'll let it go. You'll be able to see what it's looking at. The 17 minutes was probably to do the fill, the 3P. All that gray lettering is probably what that gray was. I'm going to check that out here and see. I want to put that back on. And I want to go ahead and turn this to a toolpath so it doesn't show that. And turn this one to a toolpath so it doesn't show that. And let's look at what you have now. That's the 13 minutes and 16 seconds. So it's only going to take just a couple minutes more to do that flood fill right there. All right. Now the next one I'm going to show is the offset fill. Let me turn off this, and we're going to leave that all on that tool layer. 300 LPI, 1200 millimeters per minute. Says that the offset fill is only going to take, let me get rid of the gray. The flood fill, offset fill, I'm sorry. Offset fill is right here. And you can see in the corners, it has like little spots, like white lines in the corners. If you can see that, okay. And we're going to preview that. And that's going to take 2 minutes and 26 seconds to do this. And you'll see what it, let me go back. Let me slow this down. And we're going to jump back here to the beginning. And you'll be able to see what it's going to do. It's just going around in the square. 100% burn 100% of the time. The same as the flood fill. Does the same thing. But it does give you just a little bit desired effect out of it. If you, like I said, those white lines in the corners. It does give you just a little bit different compared to the flood fill. Does not have any of those lines in the corners. So it'll give you just a little different kind of an image of it. So that's what the offset fill will do. It's quick. It's a whole lot quicker, but certain designs you want to, you just got to experiment with it. You got to just mess around with it and see what it looks like for each kind of design you're doing. I don't use a whole lot of the offset fill. I'd rather it take me a little bit longer and have either the flood fill or the fill. I would rather have. To me, the burn is more uniform. It looks to me a whole lot nicer than the offset fill. Now, if I'm trying to, pop out a whole batch of the stuff and I'm looking for trying to do difference with time, then maybe I would consider using the offset fill rather than flood fill or the regular fill. We're going to go into the offset fill layer here. That's the number 4. We're going to left click twice and it's going to pull it up. And in here is where you can change your line fill, offset fill. This is where you adjust your speed. This is where you adjust your power. We're going to leave it on the offset fill, and you can see what it's going to do. And the lines per inch is set to 300, but it always changes it down to that just a little bit lower. But I did have it set at 300. And number of passes, if you want to do it twice, you can do it twice, 3 times, however many times you want it to go around each individual layer. But 1 is all we did to show you that. And that's right here. That shows you what it is, offset fill. So we're going to close that out, and I want to go to the fill one. Let me turn this one back up. Let me close that out. And let's show you the fill. And I'm going to put the gray back on. With the fill, it did take quite a bit longer to do, but it does give you a nice image. It's just time savings. You can do a little better with the flood fill than what you can on an image like this than what you can with the fill. So flood fill does save you quite a bit of time with that. So that's just kind of the fill. The fill does give you a really nice burn, a nice image. It really does very well. It keeps everything. If you want everything to be the same, then fill is very good. And like I said to you before, flood fill is exactly the same look. It looks exactly the same. It's just faster. It just burns it much faster. So that's the fill, offset fill, and then the flood fill. And of course, if you were just burning just regular images, the whole entire sheets of them, then that would be the difference of your offset fill and your flood fill. Offset fill and fill. I just prefer, I don't really mess a whole lot with the offset fill. I don't know, maybe I like things to be the same. And when you get those offset fills, it just really makes things look a little different. Now, some images, some things you might try to burn might look good like that. I just prefer that. So, if you go back into the 5 layer right here, this is your fill, speed, power, and that's what I told you where you change your fill line or offset fill. Now, in the advanced part right here, that's where you can click on your flood fill or not flood fill. So let me close out of that and let me click on flood fill was the 3 layer. We'll click on that. And remember, you just left click twice on it and it brings this panel up. And if you look, they're all the same settings that the fill was, except for the only difference is under advanced here, I have selected the flood fill. So that's the only thing that makes it different. That just saves quite a bit of time. And let me go back in there one more time. But like I said, that's under the advanced. You just click on advanced and that will be either checked or unchecked. If you want to have that flood fill, you click the flood fill. If you don't, you leave it unchecked and it'll just be regular fill. It's going to go across the whole image, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Where the flood, if you're doing that square or if you're doing a circle that has an offset, anything with an offset, it's going to go like it showed you, where it's going to go across the whole bottom part. Then it's going to come across the one side, go across the whole top, and it's going to come across the other side. And the 5 is the fill. And I always do, down here you can also change it as well, where you have fill all shapes at once, or fill groups together, or fill shapes individually. So if you were individually, shapes would be all these shapes would all be individually shapes. But if you want to do them all at once, it's just going to do all that in one particular time. Otherwise, it's going to come in and do these. Then it's going to come out, it's going to do these. And you can mess around with it. You can play around and see if certain ones are a little bit faster for you. And you just got to click on it and just do the preview button, and you'll know which ones are going to be faster. We'll do this right here. Let me undo. We'll do this one here. Okay. If we click on that and we change it to fill groups together, we'll see what the time difference is going to be. Now let me find where that was. Select, cut selected out. Okay, that's what all right. Now I have that selected, cut selected graphics. Instead of having all this show up on there, you click it, it's only going to have that on there. But if you had that unchecked and you do the preview, it's going to have all of them up on there. It's just a quick way when you have a bunch of images on your work plane and it's the one that you're trying to get to, you just go to laser and then make sure you check cut selected graphics. And then you can go up here and it's only going to show you that one there. So with that selected, you have 13 minutes and 16 seconds. And that was, go back to cuts and layers. And that was fill groups all together. So now we're going to go back to the fill shapes. And you'll be able to see what the difference is. 13, 16 for that. Let me go back in here. Nope, wrong button. Go back in here. 13, 16. And fill groups together will be 13, 16. So there's no difference in time with that. Now, go back into the 5 layer. 13, 16 is our time that we're looking at. Fill all shapes individually. and 13, 16. So in this case, there is no difference in time with it. However whatever you click or select, it's going to be what it is. But in certain projects it does change that time quite a bit. So you have to just kind of mess with that as well too. And once again, that was in the layers, and they're all right down here. So that's kind of going to be it for this video. I just want to make a short video to go over the flood fill, offset fill with a border or with the whole entire engraving of it. I just wanted you to get a little idea of how you can set things up and the speed that you might get out of each one of these different settings. So hopefully that kind of, squared stuff away for you and you learned a little something. If you did, give me a thumbs up, like the video, and if you would subscribe, that would help me out tremendously. I'm new, brand new channel, and every subscribe I get is going to help me out tremendously, and I do really appreciate it. And I'm trying to put a lot of content out there. Some things you probably already know. Maybe there's a couple things in here that you didn't realize or you didn't know, and hopefully it helped you out a little bit. Until next time, I appreciate you all. Thank you.